You're listening to the Building and Branding Podcast, brought to you by Virtual Vision. I'm your host, Amanda Stichter. On this show, I sit down with experts in the restoration and home services industry to hear their stories of how they built their businesses to succeed and stand out. Our conversations will uncover the challenges they've faced, the strategies they've employed, and the pivotal moments that defined their paths. We'll also dive into the critical importance of branding and marketing in this field, sharing insights on how to create a compelling brand that resonates with customers and stands out in a competitive market. Join us as we blend practical advice with inspiring real-life stories, providing you the tools and motivation to craft precision and build a lasting brand. Welcome to Building and Branding. Let's get started. In this episode of Building and Branding.
This industry is a very, very difficult industry. A lot of people, if they survive the first 6 months of it, they're lifelong. You're dealing with people that you have no idea what's going on in their day-to-day lives. A lot of times the day that you meet them, they're in distress, and it's some of them the worst day of their life. You have to have a servant heart for people. When the adjuster and the contractor are on the same page and they're working together, that is really when it's beautiful. We want them to be the superhero. Tornado hit in Chattanooga. So it came through in the middle of the night. It was 2 a.m. and we're getting a ton of losses just coming through our channels that they need help. They need board ups. They need tarp. Holy cow. For miles, you can see that the destruction has taken place. I will always remember that day because everything that I knew about the restoration industry changed that day.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Building and Branding Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Stichter, and I am so excited to be joined today by someone who has made me laugh quite a bit when we are in person, always has a good sarcastic joke up his sleeve, but is in general just a fantastic asset to our industry. So today I am joined by Todd Sangid of DocuSketch. Hey, Todd.
Hey, thanks for having me. You got it right. I'm proud of you. You got it right.
I did. Well, again, all I had to do was remember GIF, not GIF, and I was good to go.
I know, and I thought it's GIF, but whatever works, right?
Probably one of those like potato type things.
It is, but it's okay.
So it's okay.
I've been called much worse.
Todd, go ahead and tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, guys. So I'm from DocuSketch, and at DocuSketch, what I do is I manage a couple of larger accounts, and I also fly around the country. I spend more of my time in airports than at home. I fly around. I love being in the airports. It's fun. It's a good time. But you get to really see how other operations operate and how vastly different our industry is across the United States. But and I work with them on more operational implementation, utilizing the product efficiently and streamlining basically the communications. What we like to say, cradle to grave. So when the emergency services happen, streamlining it all through to the rebuild process. So I spend a lot of my time doing that and just helping grow DocuSketch within the restoration community.
I love that.
Fun.
I love that. That was a really good synopsis, actually.
I've had to tell it a time or two. I know. Thanks.
I feel like 90% of the time I say to people, so tell me what you do. And they're like, how do I describe it? So seriously, that was a really well packaged.
Hey, thanks. I've had to get that elevator speech because they always ask you because you're carrying all this and you got the little case. So what do you do? Work for a SaaS company. What's that? So I mean, no. Yeah. So no, you get good at it after a while.
I love it. Okay, I have to ask, because you just said it in your intro. You spend more time in airports than you do at home, and you like it. First of all, I get there are maybe, it depends on what airport you're at slightly, but also it's some good people watching, but why do you enjoy the airport so much otherwise?
To be honest with you, I'm a huge people watcher, so getting to do that, but I get more work done when I'm at the airports and traveling
Really?
around it. I do. You have to focus more, right? And I'm like a squirrel, like over here, over here. So at the airport, you can get in one of those lounges and you're sort of locked in because
Mm,
there's so much going on around you and you don't know anybody. So you really aren't really interested. So you really focus in on what you got going on and getting to see different parts of the United States. It's really pretty cool.
yeah.
Because we're in this industry and the way that some things are handled out west is not necessarily the same way that they're handled in the South.
Hmm.
So being able to just see it for yourself and be on site in those locations now is just very beneficial, not only for my knowledge of the industry, but for DocuSketch as well.
Yeah.
And and traveling around, I mean, you can say we were just out in Las Vegas, and that
Hmm.
one was vastly different than when you go to Dallas, Texas for
I'm
a
sure.
show. So, I mean, it is just it's different, and it's a good time. It's a good time. You really just get to know yourself better, being alone and just
It's true.
traveling. It's a good time.
It's true. Do you have a favorite airport?
Do I have a favorite airport?
Have you ever been asked
So,
that question before?
yeah, and it used to be Detroit. It used to be Detroit until I got stuck there overnight without luggage. So I
Oh.
volunteered, so it was a layover, and you can volunteer to check a carry-on if
Hmm.
it's a
Hmm.
smaller puddle jumper plane. Well, I was like, yeah, that'll be nice. I'll volunteer. Well, no, of course, the plane
That's
got
when you miss.
delayed, and I didn't hit the layover plane, so then I'm left without toiletries, overnight stay.
Oh,
So Detroit was no longer my favorite airport. Um, but I tell you, I was in the one in Las Vegas was pretty nice. I go there a couple times a year, even for recreational activities. I got married in Las Vegas, so
nice.
I love that area.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Sorry for her, but it's back in 2021, got married in Vegas, and we go there a couple times a year. We're big sports fans, and people don't realize
Yeah,
Vegas isn't about. You don't have to gamble when you're there. You can go and there's
definitely.
different types of sporting events everywhere, from
Yeah,
UFC to the WNBA. So you can catch something almost every single night. And we're
that's
both
cool.
big Vegas Knights fans. So we try and catch at least a game a year. And so Vegas is our town.
I love it. I love it. Well, so where I want to start with this, because as you know, a really big passion of mine is understanding that as vendors or contractors, whatever role you have in this industry, we all kind of came into this for one reason or another. And we're still here for one reason or another.
Right.
That basically, like something brought us here. And then we get to our day to day and we sort of forget why we ended up here or why we started in this industry in the first place. So I really like to dive into people's stories. I like to understand, like, what was that moment that made you say, I think I really like this industry?
Hmm.
Hopefully you feel that way about the industry.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, to date, I haven't asked anyone this question. I've had them say, actually, I'd really like to not be in it. Everyone's happy. So, I mean, you could be my first, I suppose.
I guess we'll
Um,
go down that road.
but I want to hear your story. How did you get here?
Okay. Yeah. And this industry is a very, very difficult industry. A
Mm,
lot of people, if they survive the first 6 months of it, they're lifelong in this industry. The
mm,
way I got here, so in 2007, I began a company with my father, but it was a construction company. So we built spec homes. We did some renovations and flips and some custom homes. And I did that up until 2016, where I decided to venture out and get into the property and casualty insurance. So I actually owned an
mm.
insurance agency.
Oh,
It
wow.
was a captive agency, right? So I understand policy language and what is
Mm,
sold. And really, how I decided to get into this industry because I did not know about the restoration industry. Even
sure.
though I was in construction for so many years, I did not know about the industry. And I had quite a few of my claims continually get denied
Mm,
on policyholders that were in my book of business. And it took me down a rabbit hole. And I started really diving into what this industry was about. And I got out of selling insurance and I sought to get into the other side of the business, okay, the restoration side, to
Hmm.
be able to help customers. And that really was the why behind me getting into it, is to
Hmm.
be able to serve and help the customers. Because the reality of it is a lot of people don't understand what policies they're purchasing. It just
Hmm.
comes out of escrow every month and they don't ask any questions until they have that loss.
Hmm.
And in this industry, you're dealing with people that you have no idea what's going on in their day-to-day lives. But a lot of times the day that you meet them, they're in distress, and it's some of them the worst day of their life.
Yeah.
And so you have to have a servant heart for people in this industry. And
Mm.
so that's what drove me to it, being able to help them out and get them through a tough time, in order for them to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Because there's a lot that we could get into about this industry, the really, really good and the really, really tough.
Hmm.
But overall, staying in this industry is I want to continue helping make it better, because we can continue to grow. We can continue to grow alongside on the contractor side, along with the insurance side. And when we start really working together, that's when we realize that we're helping the policyholder out, as
Mm.
opposed to they're the ones in the middle. And so we want to strive to be able to help them as much, not only understand how their policy works, but what they're owed. Okay, what
Mm.
they're owed. And
Hmm.
most, I would say 90% of customers do not understand um, how a claim works, and what exactly they're paying for on a monthly basis from the insurance companies.
Yeah. Really interesting story. I mean, realistically, you just walked like a full circle. You've
Yeah,
almost been like at every position in the like restoration process.
I have. I haven't been a claims adjuster, but I've
Okay, well that's
spoken to quite a few of them.
I'm sure.
And they're really good people out there. There are really good adjusters out there, and there's some that are in it for a paycheck, right? And you
Hmm.
can't be in this industry for a paycheck. You have to be in it, to be able to take care of other people and want to take care of other people. And if you're in it for a paycheck, you're not going to be very happy. And the people that are going to suffer are people that you're in their home, and
Mm.
you're dealing with their livelihood, and it's not fair to them, right? Because it's an
Right.
industry, it's a niche industry. You really have to understand it, and it
Hmm.
takes a long time to understand it,
Yeah.
because a lot of people think that it's just construction dealing with the insurance company, but it's really not. There are so many nuances to the industry, and being able to understand it and be able to speak it. This industry has a whole different language, that
Mm.
you have to speak to be able to communicate not only with policyholders, homeowners, and adjusters and carriers alike. So it it is an interesting industry for sure.
Hmm. You said a couple things in your explanation in that story that I want to dive into quick. Um, the first thing that you said is if someone is in this industry and they survive their first 6 months, they don't generally leave.
Mhm.
Why?
Because typically they enjoy not only the thrill of it,
Hmm.
because it is fast paced, but they love, they typically have a servant type heart, right? So
Hmm.
they're compassionate, and if they um, really dive into that side and they understand, once they get through the understanding the learning curve per se of this industry,
Hmm.
that it really does have really, really good days, being able to take care of people. There's just such a stringent learning curve, depending on what sector you come into in this
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
I think that really has a it really, that is where the 6 month, it depends on where you came in. If you came in as a grunt on the mitigation truck and you make it through 6 months, you're probably progressing to a lead, or at some point
Hmm.
maybe a project manager, and then
Hmm.
a MIP manager. And so there's a long runway, but there's always a path in this industry to growth. So that's
Yeah.
why people typically stay in it, from my
Mm.
seat and what I've seen.
I love that. The other thing you said was you can't be in this industry if you're in it for the money. Now, listen, I I get that and I think I know where you're going with this. But obviously like at the foundation, the companies that are running this, like they do still have to make money to survive.
Absolutely.
But why do you say your foundation can't be in, well, I have to make money? What
So I
should it
think
be
that
in if
that's
it's
an
not that?
internal principle, right? Not from an
Okay.
ownership or a hierarchy of that's an internal principle, and then you get to that. Fortune, I am a firm believer in trusting in the process, and
Mm,
if you trust in the day-to-day process and being able to do things the right way, you will make the money that you need to make to survive or to be able
yeah.
to be successful in this industry. But if your
Yeah.
main objective and goal is to be financially wealthy due to
Mm,
this industry, you're going to trip along the way, and you're probably going to stumble quite a bit, and you're not going to be very happy doing it because it is,
hmm.
again, it is an industry that takes a lot out of you,
Yeah.
and it definitely it has its test, and each day presents a new test. We call it the whirlwind, living in it.
Mm.
You can plan out your day exactly how you think it should go, and every day something changes, and
So
that
true.
emergency job comes in. I see it every single time I've been on site. Every time somebody in the course of that meeting for 2.5, 3 hours will have to get up and take a phone call or leave or
Hmm.
dispatch a crew, and it's
Hmm.
just it's part of being in the industry.
Hmm.
And some of us love it, right? You love it, because it keeps you going because, you got ADHD like me, right? You just keep looking all around like, what? All right, when's something else coming? So
Sure.
that's really what I meant by that in a 30,000 foot view.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think too, the reality is when someone, or at least in my experience, when someone is in it to make money over serving someone first, like realistically,
Hmm.
it in my mind, it's really like you called it an internal principle. I would say I think it's kind of an integrity piece. Like you have to ask yourself, am I in this for my betterment, or am I in this for the betterment of the person that I'm trying to help get through this? You know, what you said, like they're
Hmm.
ultimately generally at one of the worst moments of their life. There's a few, I would say not as many. I'm grateful that they're few and far between, but I have met a
Yeah.
few where you're like, I don't know if you're in this for the right reasons. Like, I think it's a
Right.
lucrative business and that like it doesn't suffer in the same way that some of the other businesses do. I mean, obviously
Hmm.
it's going to be a little bit dependent on weather and things like that, but
Hmm.
there are those few people that I've met that I'm like, I don't see your heart in this. I see the person that
Yeah.
wants a big business and wants to be recognized as a big business owner, but not the person who is ready to lean down to the homeowner in that position and say, here's my hand. Let me help you up. I am
Yeah.
here to do this with you.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, and like you said, it could be said for any industry. You can
Hmm.
even rationalize it to organized team sports, right?
Yeah.
You have those ball players that are truly gifted, right? Are gifted,
Hmm.
but just don't love the game, right? So they don't put the
Yeah.
work in that it takes to be successful. And then you have those worker bees, right? The ones that have a little bit of talent, but they'll outwork anybody. So
Yep.
they're going to tend to last longer, right? And they're going to give more of their heart and soul to that team, because they're in it for the name on the front of the jersey as opposed to the name on the back of the jersey. And
Hmm.
and you see that in every industry, but I think that it shows its face a little bit more in this industry because it's a little bit of a thankless profession, to be honest with
Mm,
you, because
it is.
you're really you're doing so much for these customers, that is not within the confines of an insurance policy. You're going above and beyond for them.
Hmm.
And a lot of times that doesn't recognize itself, in a paycheck, right? It's just
Right.
it's not necessarily going to signify additional pay because you're doing additional work. No, you're just doing it because you think it's the right thing to do, and it is the right thing.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and I honestly, and I see it, on both sides of the aisle, because you've got your contractors and you got your insurance companies, your insurance adjusters, right? And um, the insurance adjusters, when the adjuster and the contractor are on the same page and they're working together, that is really when it's beautiful. That's really when it
Yeah.
works. for the policyholder.
Hey listeners, we've got some exciting news for you from one of our sponsors. Attention restoration business owners. Are you drowning in spreadsheets and reports trying to make sense of all the data your business generates every day? Well, it's time to turn that data chaos into clarity with our newest sponsor, JOC Analytics. JOC Analytics specializes in transforming your data into easy-to-use, customized business intelligence reports. Imagine having all the insights you need right at your fingertips to optimize your operations and drive your business forward. No more hours are spent piecing together endless spreadsheets. JOC Analytics does the heavy lifting for you. Their tool, PowerView, seamlessly integrates with popular platforms like Dash, PSA, Restoration Manager, JobDocs, and BuilderTrend. It pulls in your data, whether through open APIs, direct database connections, or simple exports. The result? A powerful, tailored business intelligence solution that puts you back in control of your time and your business. Don't let your data go to waste. Partner with JOC Analytics and start powering your business decisions with insights that matter. Visit jocanalytics.com and discover how to reclaim your time and your sanity. Discover the power of your data.
When the adjuster and the contractor are on the same page and they're working together, that is really when it's beautiful. That's really when it works for the policyholder. And and I think that with all the technology that's coming out, and because DocuSketch came around in 2019 to the States, it's really helped clean up that communication piece between not only the homeowner and the customer, but the homeowner, customer, and the contractor. And because getting everybody on the same page is very, very beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and obviously, realistically, DocuSketch is a big part of kind of bringing the contractor and the adjuster together.
Yeah.
You said something when I saw you in Vegas, you said something that I loved. We were specifically referring to the rebrand that DocuSketch launched. It was earlier this year, right? That it officially came out?
It was. Okay. It was about February, I believe it was.
Okay. Yes. So, and that's, I've known who DocuSketch is. I was at an event probably at the end of January last year or this year. And from afar, I was like, that says DocuSketch, but that is definitely not their logo.
You like the comics?
That I know of.
You like the comics?
I love it. Okay. But listen, I'm a graphic designer and design person by trade before where I am now. And so I love it because it stands out. You notice it. And I know this is kind of the conversation we were having in Vegas, you and I. And one of the things you said, which I love, you said, we want the contractor to be the hero. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but DocuSketch provides a tool where the contractor can come in and in some way elevate the process to get it, to the claims, to the insurance company, and elevate that as the hero to make this process easier for both the restoration company, the insurance company, as well as the policyholder, because it brings all three together.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And we want them to be the superhero, right? And that's sort of the theme behind it. And it's not even just the contractor, the insurance company as well. We want them all to be the superheroes in order to facilitate this tragic event that's happened, right? Because, the industry lives off of events, man-made events that take place, or water heaters exploding. So little things like that. But to back
exploding,
it up to
not just breaking.
Yeah, line. Fair enough.
Hold on. Has that ever happened?
It has to.
Probably to somebody.
Yes, it has to myself. Yeah, that was about 3 years ago. It was a mess. I wasn't home either. The wife called me and had to get there and
quite literally exploded.
It popped off the top. Correct.
Let me
The
just pick my jaw
plumber,
up off the ground here. That sounds terrible.
the plumber was there in a hurry.
Good.
He's a neighbor. Luckily, he was a neighbor. Anyway, I digress. But
That's okay. These are the stories I love, so it's
yeah,
good.
well, that's a whole. We'll have a whole nother one on that one. That was a self-inflicted wound. Let's just say that.
Uh-oh.
And so when I got into this industry in 2020, as I told you, you know, I had a guy that my boss, he took a chance on me. I didn't understand Xactimate. I didn't know. I understood how to write estimates on the
Sure.
construction sequence side, but I
Yeah.
didn't know how Xactimate worked, which meant I didn't know how to sketch or do anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where DocuSketch saved me, right? And it
Yeah.
essentially, and it saves everybody because it does all those things for you, so you can
Mm-hmm.
spend more of the time being customer facing, dealing with exploding water heaters, and essentially help and facilitate them through that loss, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're taking them on a path, on a journey to be able to successfully take care of them. And that is where you're talking about the tools. That is essentially superheroes, right? We want the
Mm-hmm.
contractor to be the superhero. We're just adding an additional tool. We're facilitating
Yeah.
a tool that is going to help not only you streamline your efficiencies, but you're going to increase your cycle times and how you take care of those customers, and
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get them back in their home quicker. And
Yeah.
essentially one of the very first things that they ask you when you come out on site is, how long is this going to take?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the purpose of a tool like a DocuSketch is to expedite that process,
Right.
right? Because then you're getting the information to the insurance company that they need. You're being able to internally streamline that communication and get the estimate and everything taken care of, all while doing the hard, heavy lifting on the job site, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of getting, you know, the home mitigated and ready
Mm-hmm.
for repairs.
Right.
So it's really, it is a tool, and it's sort of the way the industry is going. It's going much more technology driven,
Mm-hmm.
and it really helps, expedite things throughout the claims process.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially having like in all the roles that you've held really in your kind of journey through this industry, I'm sure you see the power that much more that the tool of DocuSketch provides, because you're not just seeing it from one perspective.
Right.
You're literally seeing it from, it helps the builder, the person, the contractor, it helps the insurance company, it helps the policyholder, it helps the restoration company. That's incredible. So you just connect all of
It
those.
is. It really is. It is a tool that obviously I was not aware of when I was a insurance carrier
Yeah.
or an agent. Um, so, and I had people coming in from different companies all the time, trying to solicit the business, right? If you have a claim, call us. And I'll be honest with you, and this is how most insurance agents are. We don't even know who they are. We don't understand that process of it. They
Mm-hmm.
try and take agents for the most part, and again, I'm sure it's changed in the past 7 years, but you're more focused on the new business, and the claims go to a
Mm-hmm.
completely separate process,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't even
Mm-hmm.
touch them. But in order to understand what you're offering to the customers, we need to be more educated on that side
Yeah.
to be able to serve the customers better. And I definitely think that is somewhere we can get much stronger in the industry all around, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
policy language, understanding, what is covered, what isn't covered,
Mm-hmm.
why
Mm-hmm.
is this not covered, right? Well,
Yeah.
then why was this sold? Is it strictly based off price? Are we going strictly off price point? Well, then we need to let them know what's not going to be covered, right? Because an insurance policy
Yeah.
is supposed to pay to put a customer back whole. Nothing more,
Mm-hmm.
nothing less. They're supposed to be put back whole from where they were when the loss occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And these are just, things that, potentially insurance agents do not know. And even some contractors may not understand that as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So knowing that you've really kind of run the gamut of roles here,
Now you
what
say like I've been everywhere. Good. No.
Sorry.
Listen,
Let me reword that because I mean it in a good way.
I
Like you
saw the
have a
light
really,
and I went to the better side. Okay, I saw the light.
I mean, I personally am grateful that I've gotten to know you and you're on this side. So I'm grateful for that. Is there one story like in your kind of tenure in this industry that sticks out to you? And I know I'm like maybe asking you to dig a little bit from, what'd you say, 2007 you first started in this in
Well,
construction?
I did in 2007. I would say, as funny as it is, um, the one thing that I remember the most about this industry in particular was I had literally been in the industry for 2 months, and a tornado hit in Chattanooga in 2020. And I remember the day that it happened. It's one of those things where you just don't know what to expect. You know that a catastrophic event has just taken place. And growing up, I loved tornadoes. So I was weird. I always thought I was going to be a storm chaser.
How
But
many times have you watched the movie Twister?
a bunch. I haven't seen the new one, so I've got to get to that. See Twisters. But I hear it's really good. So the devastation that happened. So it came through in the middle of the night. It was 2 a.m. And me thinking that I was, going to be a hero. I'm in my car, and everybody, we're trying to dispatch to just see what damage is taking place. We're getting a ton of losses just coming through our channels that they need help. They need board ups. They need tarps. So I think I'm going to drive out there and do something, right? Because I want to help. That's where my heart is at, right? I want to help. And I get, within a half a mile away, and it's just all you see is red and blue lights. Like the road shut down. There's emergency responders everywhere. And it's just like, holy cow. And I get out of my vehicle and I go walking, and it's just like, for miles you can see that the destruction has taken place.
Wow.
And we didn't realize it in the middle of the night. I was by myself at that time, but the next morning when we went and we got to the same area, you could see it for miles. The trees were down, and you could see the path that the tornado took. And, luckily, I believe that there may have been one casualty in that, but most of the people were very well informed, and got to the lowest level of the house, and the destruction, and then it didn't get a lot of national attention.
Sure.
But it was something that day. It was April 20th, Easter of 2020, and I will always remember that day, because everything that I knew about the restoration industry, even being on the insurance side, everything changed that day, right? Being able to see it and then facilitate it. And then we're in the middle of this, we're at this very start of COVID. So not a lot of people were working.
Wow.
A lot of people were still at home. On the insurance side, not a lot. Adjusters weren't traveling.
Right.
And it was just that experience. Making it through that kept me in this industry, and will keep me in this industry for as long as I can work, because there are a lot of great stories that came out of there, and and there's some not so great stories. But that would probably be the day that sort of changed my perspective on really everything. I knew I wanted to be in this industry. Whether it was for me being more frustrated at the insurance companies for not covering claims or not, but
sure,
once you're in it and you're able to serve and take care of and during disaster like that, it really changes your perspective on a lot of things. That's for
sure. Well, that adds a lot of light to going back all the way to the beginning of your statement that if you can survive the first 6 months, you generally tend to stay in it. And that was, you said, month 2?
It was. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it sure was. And, I just go figure it out. Right. And
Nothing like just being thrown into the deep end or something, right?
You know what? I loved it, because the company that I was working for was a great company, and they put a lot of strong people around you. I came in, my boss was, he was in the industry forever. You know, me not knowing the industry, but being able to be
Mm.
around people. There was a mitigation manager there, a project manager there, or production manager there, and then the general manager, and then I was just the estimator. And being surrounded with people that were that knowledgeable and that willing to
Mm.
help somebody, because I'd run around like a chicken with my head cut off. Like, I need to get here, I need to get, and they think that they make fun of it, right? Yeah, Todd's always running around like crazy, but they were very helpful,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is another key to staying in this industry, right? You have to be surrounded with the right people, and
Mm.
being surrounded with the right people that will allow you to have that learning curve, or be able to mess something up on settling a claim, and then just take it in strides and learn from it and grow from it.
Yeah.
That was very, very pivotal to any success I've had in this industry. Being able to speak to DocuSketch, I really
Mm.
those three individuals were a huge part of it, and I appreciate them every day.
That's cool. That's really cool. Well, before we kind of wrap up our time, I want to ask you, and you've already hit on some of this. So if you're like,
Oh man.
just everything I've said before,
All right.
but people are coming into this industry all the time. It's growing, right? And it's also been a harder year on our industry than it has been in a little while. And while I'm confident we're going to see the other side of that, if someone is just entering this industry, or maybe they're at a point where they're kind of a crossroads, do I stay or do I go? What words of advice would you give to someone that you've learned from your experience?
Oh, patience.
Patience.
Patience is a virtue. Having professionalism in this industry goes without saying, right? But the ones that carry themselves in the right way, because you're in customers' homes,
Mm-hmm.
so be professional, right? Act as if. Take care of the customer first. Things of that nature. And patience, patience. You have to be willing to adapt. The industry changes every month, it seems.
Yeah.
And being able to adapt to it and not being set in a certain way, and being able to pivot at a moment's notice is something that I would say is very beneficial when coming into this industry, and to have an open mindset, and to just know that you are in this to serve. You're in this to serve and take care of others. And I think that will really help, catapult you and keep you in the industry, because you can be doing a lot of other things that can make a lot more money. But I don't think that you would get the reward and the satisfaction, even though it is not necessarily a self-fulfilling industry. You taking care of customers, is really an internal reward all in itself.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, you getting them back in their home in a timely manner, they'll remember that. They'll remember that, and hopefully you can sleep a little bit better at night taking care of that customer.
Yeah, you almost get the opportunity. I've never thought about it this way before, but you almost get the opportunity to sort of like rewrite the story, because just like you remember at the drop of a hat the date that tornado went through Chattanooga, I guarantee the homeowner remembers exactly what happened when that disaster struck, whether it's an exploding water heater or a tornado that comes through or a fire. They remember, and they will always remember. But the beauty of this industry is that you get to add to that story and sort of correct that, so that you give them not just this terrible moment to remember, but I remember the day my house, caught on fire, but I also remember the day I got to step back inside it. And you really get to provide the bookend at the
Yeah.
other side of that to bring it all together.
It's that's a very, very good way to put it, and well put.
Hmm.
Yeah, it a bookend, right? You get to have, you get to help them finish writing their story, and that's a very well put, very, very well said. I like it. I'm gonna have to steal
Well,
that.
Todd, you can steal it. It's okay. Well, Todd, I'm super grateful for our time today. If any of our listeners are interested in learning more about DocuSketch or just talking to you in general, is there a way that you'd tell them to get a hold of you that would be easiest?
Yeah, it's my first and last name, Todd.Sangid at DocuSketch.com. And I can't give out phone numbers on here. I don't even remember my work number. I always give out my personal. Um, let's see. Just email me. Email me.
Okay.
I'll get it to you, and I'll be happy to help anybody that is curious about what DocuSketch does.
Perfect. Well, Todd, thank you again for your time. And thanks again for everyone who spent some time listening today. Hope you got something valuable out of it. And we will see you next time on the next episode of the Building and Branding Podcast.